Okay, what's up everyone and welcome to Clear Talk. So in this video we are going to talk about Israel and Gaza. We're going to give an update from what I have seen reports and stuff of what's been going on over there. Honestly, nothing much has changed. It's still pretty much the same stuff going on. Um, it's just an expansion of it, really. But anyway, we're going to go over that. We're going to hit a little bit on Netanyahu's visit here and his speech to Congress. So, which is, yes, it's pretty much the same shit he's been saying. Anyway, yes. Yes, if you like this content, please consider what I started to say something else. Please consider subscribing, clicking that subscribe button. Free to you, and like, comment, share, all that good stuff. What we talk about, give me a comment down below what you think about it. Let me know things else that you want me to talk about or whatever. Give me ideas. It doesn't have to be political. It could be whatever, anything. Okay, this channel is not supposed to really be all political, although that's really I know here lately what it's been kind of about. But there's just been so much going on, domestically and foreign and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much where it is. It'll help grow this channel and grow the community, and so we can have more talk and have more ideas and just I can talk about all kinds of stuff. So, anyways, so let's get to it. All right. So in as we know previously, um, we talked about how things were pretty much still going on. The death toll numbers are hard to come by, like the Gaza ministry of health and stuff or whatever. It's having a hard time really gathering any new numbers. The numbers are creeping up little by little, but they um, honestly at this point is no way they're realistic. There's no way that there's no way to really know how many are actually dead between you know they can only verify so many system wise, and then you have so many that's up on the rubble that from just the total destruction of Gaza that has happened over the 10 months. um, it's just unbelievable the amount of destruction and stuff that has happened over there. And like I've stated before, remember if you're from like me from Mississippi, you think about the Gaza Strip is basically like the size of like Jackson City and like Pearl, like that's how big it is, or Jackson and Madison. If you could just in your mind think about how large that is, that's as big as Gaza is, and think about just like 90% of, or or well, I guess well, yeah, it's somewhere around 75-80%, I guess, of Jackson and Pearl or Jackson and Madison just leveled, destroyed. Buildings, you know, either completely gone or, um, you know, mostly destroyed or, whatever, or at least partly destroyed. Um, Almost the whole entire, population is displaced and has been displaced over and over and over and over and over again. From moving from here to here, and then being either forced to move from here to here to another place or to another place or to another place, whether it's because of them of Israel, the IDF constantly shrinking and shrinking and shrinking the zones and pushing people back so that they can so-called go after Hamas or whatever other objectives they're um, trying to do here. And uh, it's just constantly pushing, but or because they get bombed out of nowhere, in safe zone or zones that are supposed to be safe, and Israel is still dropping bombs in safe zones. I mean, over and over and over again. We know the last update I gave you, we had four schools and within 4 days that were destroyed or bombed. Um, and, having a number, in the 20s and 30s of people killed at each of those locations. Um, and since then, there's been more school bombings. We know that the UN has a lot of locations, school locations, where they're allowing people to stay and harbor in or whatever. It's supposed to be safe, but Israel's still bombing and dropping them everywhere. Just attack here, attack here, attack there. Um, and you have 20 something here, 20 something there, 30 something there, 40 something there, um, 12, 15. Like, this is, you're steadily having these numbers dropped of people died here, people died there, people died there, people died there, people died there. And it's just, but it's like slow streaming. They've tried to minimize like the massive killing, which has partly been because we are holding back all those 200, 2,000 pound bombs. That's one thing. Because if they were still getting the 2,000 pound bombs, they'd probably still be dropping those. And we'd have even more deaths going on. But because they have only the 500 pound bombs and other little things that they're using, it's helped to somewhat minimize the death that apparently is completely okay with everybody. I mean, it's ridiculous. Um, but so they had um, there was also I want to say last week there was like a UN type building or something that was bombed or something. But it's just constantly bombs dropped everywhere, little by little, here and there. Right, we previously they were working their way through Rafah, pushing people, trying to take over part of Rafah, which is in the southernmost corridor of the Gaza Strip. And now they're working their way back up to Khan Yunis, and they're steadily pushing people further and further. Just the other day, I think it was Monday, they took a little bit of section out of the I guess you would say the eastern, yeah, the eastern side of Khan Yunis, um, and gave orders for people to evacuate. But immediately after the order was given, like within moments, minutes after uh, the order was given to evacuate, they started dropping bombs. Um, and there was like 70 plus people killed, around somewhere between 70 and 75, 74, something like that. I think somewhere around 20 something of that was women. Somewhere around 15 to 20 was kids. I think around 15 of them were children. Um, that one is a kind of an oddball. Usually there's more children killed in these instances, but this instance, that's what I've seen. I think is reporting on that. That is with a grain of salt, though. I mean, that's um, so. We've had to continue. The operation is nonstop. We have, of course, Netanyahu came here this week. I think he arrived Tuesday morning early, and I don't know exactly what he did Tuesday, but he addressed the Congress today. He speaks with uh, Biden and Kamala tomorrow, and then Friday there's reports that he's going to go speak with Trump in Mar-a-Lago, um, making his rounds. But before that happened, before he came here, you had the Knesset in Israel, which is I could be wrong here, but it's kind of similar to some degree of like our Congress to a degree for Israel. And they basically had a ruling, some rulings or whatever there, uh, basically stating uh, that a two-state solution for the Palestinians was like never going to happen. I mean, they're dead set on uh, on there not being any type of state solution for the Palestinians. Which is something that Netanyahu is over and over and over pushed throughout his whole entire career as a leader of Israel. All consistently, time after time after time, prevents any movement in that direction. Doing what he can. I mean, that's the reason why he was the one that helped promote Hamas to begin with, to take over the Gaza Strip, so that it would split and separate the Gaza from the West Bank, uh, in powers and stuff, so that there would be conflict there and prevent them from getting any kind of state solution. Because before that, the PA and stuff, or well, it was something else then, but they were trying to, they somewhat had, or were trying to have power of Gaza. Um, but if they had been, if they had been voted in Gaza, then there would have been a joint kind of unity power structure between Gaza and the West Bank, and that would have made it a little bit more, you know, feasible for them to have a state of their own and start having to, a governance of their own as a, a one people, united people. But he made sure that Hamas got propped up and got voted in, just to then turn around and use them as his scapegoat and as the, terrorists that he needed to keep to create, an open air prison, uh, power control of the area, source resource control, and everything else. To date, to that, up to this time, up to this date. Um, so that's been his whole plan all along. And then, so basically, they're making that push and rule in there, that that's never gonna, that's not gonna happen, and we're gonna basically can keep control of Gaza. Uh, and then he comes here, has a speech with Congress where he pretty much, um, you had uh, hostage families and stuff from Israel that were speaking earlier, uh, last week, about how they were hoping and expecting to hear him say something about coming to some sort of settlement or resolution, in the ceasefire talks, you know, uh, so that that he was going to reveal some kind of settlement there, and that they would have a ceasefire. But clearly, that did not happen. He come with the same rhetoric as he's been speaking in previous speeches that he's done, to televised to the U.S. and whatnot. The same stuff, calling um, speaking of Hamas and their evils, and the whole good versus bad, um, between Israel and Hamas and Gaza, and basically Palestine in general, and the U.S. and including us, and the U.S. and Israel as being one, and the good, and fighting evil, and blah blah blah. Um, he pointed out, you had you had several, quite a few members, especially on the progressive side, that did not go, did not make an appearance. AOC and Pelosi are like the two big ones that was talked about, but there were a few others. Um, you had Rashida Tlaib there, and holding up two signs, one of which was um, uh, genocide, and the other one, a let's see here, what was it? Yeah, guilty of genocide, and the other were war criminal. Um, and so he had to deal with that. Not to mention, there were protesters outside. Thousands of protesters collected up to protest against him. Wasn't as quite as many as I think a lot of us were hoping for. Um, but were quite a big, a large group of people there to protest, and he, of course, addressed them directly too, speaking about them being misguided and basically supporters of Hamas and Iran. Basically alluding to the fact that some of them are bought and paid for by Iran, and that they're um, uh, what did he say? Special idiots or something like that. Uh, useful idiots. Yeah, Iran's useful idiots. Um, yeah. And then of course he spoke on the uh, the ICC ruling and stuff. You know, which was that the fact that they warranted issues. Sorry, warranted issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu, which is still has to be kind of still has to be addressed by courts and stuff, which it still hasn't happened. Um, but you have still had like several countries that have stated, if he came into our country, we would arrest him. Um, the U.S. is one that does not. We do not acknowledge the authority and stuff of the ICC. I think that is one problem. I think we should. There is some argument that no superpower should recognize that type of authority. Of a UN type. That we shouldn't be subject to um, to courts for the actions that we do, which to me is completely absurd. That just seems ridiculously absurd. That superpowers should just be immune and should be able to do whatever we want. That's pretty ridiculous. We should be held in check just like any other power. Just because we have a lot of money and resources and whatnot doesn't mean that we should be able to do whatever the hell we want. Um, but anyways, I digress. So yeah, we don't recognize that, so we don't care that he's here. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen him arrested, but yeah, it is the way it is. And then he also spoke on, yeah, but I'm sorry, he pretty much was talking about uh, that it was false accusations and stuff, and uh, basically, if Israel is tied up by, it's almost a threat to me, but like if Israel's hands tied, America's next. Basically, if they come after us, they're going to come after America next because duh, we're associated. But duh, I don't care. Because quite frankly, you could argue just as easily that if he's a war criminal, then so is Biden, because he has uh, just outright supported and helped in this whole situation over 10 months, not doing anything to really hone in Israel or keep them under control. Uh, Unwavering support outside of after what 7 months he finally decided to start holding back the 2,000-pound bombs once they had like clamored 2 million people into the smallest area they possibly could in the strip. Anyways, um And then he basically laid out the post-war vision, which is that they pretty much maintain control. Um, he wants to completely eradicate Hamas, and he will not stop until that is the case. And then afterwards, they want to demilitarize and um, uh, radicalize Gaza, and that a new generation of Palestinians must no longer be taught to hate Jews, but rather to live in peace. So basically, he wants to set up, and what's something they've talked about, set up training things like reprogramming kind of things to reprogram the minds of Palestinians, from what I understand, from what I've heard. And this has been talked about for a while now. Um, but basically maintaining security control of the area, which means just nonstop continued occupation, continued military state. So um, that's not good. Not what we have been talking about happening. Um, and and for this to happen and for there to be clear, their objectives to be successful, they need us to send them more weapons. That's basically it. They want military aid increased and for it to be delivered rapidly. No holds back, no holds bar. Don't stop those 2,000. Send them to us. Ah, the bigger the better. We'll blow this shit up and we'll finish the job. Which is what Trump said. Finish the job. Um, yeah. Give us the tools faster and we'll finish the job faster. Not only take care of Gaza, but also the broader war against Lebanon, Hezbollah, basically, and now the Houthis in Yemen, since that's also, but they actually have like, they state that they have like a seven front, all kinds of nations around them, issues and stuff, pretty much like Sudan, like everybody, everywhere, like I mean Syria, whatever, everybody. Um, that's basically what his talk was. So now we have again tomorrow um, him speaking to Biden and Kamala. I think Kamala's supposed to be joining in that. I don't know what that's going to be about, how hard that's going to be, like if they're going to press him on any issues, um, or go over the expectations of her taking over the ticket and her expectations like going forward if she gets the nomination and then wins the presidency, um, how she's going to govern and how she's going to policy you know foreign issues and stuff, politicize them. um, I don't know. I don't know. um, One interesting thing that I haven't seen reported a whole lot though is that what also happened this week while we had Netanyahu come here, you had Palestinians go to Beijing. Um, you had, from what I understand, uh, like 14 factions of Palestinians. So you have, Hamas in Gaza, the faction that's in the West Bank. I'm pretty positive is Fatah, um, And those are the two main ones. And those are the two that have butted heads, over the years, especially since Hamas came in control of Gaza. So but there are also other factions like within other countries, because Palestinians are not just in Gaza and the West Bank. There are also Palestinians scattered around the surrounding countries and stuff, um, from Jordan to Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Turkey. I mean, there's several groupings of Palestinians all around. And there's basically representatives from each one of those factions, from what I understand. I could have that wrong, but that's what it appeared to me, the way I understood it. Um, Went to Beijing with the uh, was Xi Jinping in China, and had uh, an agreement, a declaration signed called the Beijing Declaration. Um, and it was uh, a declaration basically having unity between all these factions. Now you've had quite a few declarations signed by particularly Fatah and Hamas over the last decade or so. There's been quite a few of them. I want to say around, what was it? Uh, oh, this is the 16th one. Sorry, this is the 16th agreement, but this is the most like unified agreement that they've had to date. Um, and it's pretty much basically the whole Palestinian unit community coming together, signing a declaration of unity, and going forward to having a like unified governing of itself. Uh, and this was all brought about by the location in Beijing with Xi Jinping, and sort of solidifying China's sort of influence in the region, deepening their influence, um, which is important and should be important to us. Um, so that's interesting, uh, and they're hoping to be able to bring that back to the tables with the ceasefire agreements. The tables, and where they get together in Qatar or whatever, and with Israel, and try to to give to so they appear, well, not only appear, but the influence there of them having a more unified nation, and having the um, purpose for a governed nation, would help in the ceasefire agreements, and help give some sort of like, I don't know, let's state that, give some sort of stronger argument to Israel that they um, can help govern, they can govern themselves effectively and peacefully. Um, so I don't know. We'll see what comes of this. But they did get together, uh, representatives and everything from, like I said, all the factions, um, and they signed the declaration, the Beijing Declaration. So we'll see here, coming forward, whether or not uh, this holds any weight internationally. With the, um, that's the hope, that it will bring them a little bit more weight in the international, community. Um, eh, and hope that it will help them be more embraced for governing, and ultimately getting their own state. But clearly, you had Israeli minister Katz basically rejecting it, right out the gate, condemning Fatah for embracing Hamas and stuff like that in this deal. I don't really see it as that, but that's the way they're going to spin it. Um, and that basically saying that nothing is going to happen, nothing's going to change until they crush Hamas. That's, you know, so I don't know, unless there is pressure from us, really. I mean, it's going to take some severe pressure from us to pull Israel back in line. Um, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I have hopes. I have hopes that Kamala will have a more hard line on this issue. And if she actually can take the presidency, make some policy changes. Now, it might not be the changes that we would like to see, like, as far as we would like to see, but if it is any remotely better or puts any kind of pressure enough on them to rein them in and get a ceasefire and stop the war, the destruction and the death and everything, then hey, it would be a victory. It would be a win in my books. Um, should it be way more? Hell yes. There should be all kinds of stuff brought down on Israel for this. And I don't mean the people. I mean Netanyahu and the far right members of the war cabinet and everything, like the IDF, that they should all be have hell wrung on them from whatever it takes to put those behind bars needed behind bars. Um, influence re-elections to get somebody else in there. Now, granted, whether a better person would get in there or not, that's still like that would be up in the air. But something needs to happen. I would like major stuff happen. Um, resources pulled, support pulled, sanctions, whatever. And I'm not a huge sanction kind of person. I don't think sanctions. I don't think it should be used the way they're often used. But in this situation, if it's sanctioned done correctly, like directly on the government itself, to the point that it doesn't hurt the people, but it hurts those in power, that's the kind of sanctions that I can somewhat get behind, especially if it's for a situation like this. If it's just a situation where we're trying to control somebody so we can take their government over or some shit, that's one thing. Get their resources or influence some kind of change in government, some kind of coup or something. That's, or if we're trying to, you know, break them down to the point or hold them back to the point that they can't do anything, that's a little bit too much. Like we often do with Iran. I think it's a bit much. Um, and I'm hoping now that they've got a different leader in Iran that some of that can be worked out here in the near future. But because he is a more centery left kind of person, not in the setting of Iran, not on the world stage really, but in the political sphere of Iran, he is more center left, um, which is more like somewhat center here, probably center right here. Um, but uh, anyways, so yeah, that's pretty much the updates on Israel and stuff. Still a lot of death and destruction going on. Uh, you have just ridiculousness. Uh, It's got to be stopped. It blows my mind. Like there's a loss of words when it comes to speaking about this situation because it's just like something you it's something out of like out of a war movie or like something that just shouldn't be happening in real life. Um, and most certainly shouldn't be backed and allowed by us or anybody for that matter. Um, and the fact that we are allowing something like this to happen at this late date in our existence is just pathetic to me. It's hard for me to anyways. Sounding like Biden now. Anyway, but yeah, so there is so much. Israel just doesn't seem to want to give. They're like bound, or rather, Netanyahu, Gallant, all them over there not wanting to give in and wanting to just destroy, or push. Like they're little by little just creating the so-called safe zone. It's just little by little, just getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and pushing them further and further and further um, against the sea line in the southern part of Gaza. And it's just like these people have nowhere to go. They're still not getting resources like they need. There's still starvation, disease, lack of resources. You know, the hospitals are barely. I mean, it's like they're running on bare minimums. They get a little bit here, a little bit there, to keep them going through a couple more people here, a couple more people there. Um, and then they really can't. There's periods where they can't really help people. Um, it's sad. It's disturbing. Uh, it's genocide, and about time this shit stops. So, um, anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I wish I was coming with better news. I wish I was coming with, hey, we've got some kind of deal. We're moving in a positive direction here. But unfortunately, the same shit continues, and we're not really getting anywhere. So, thank you very much for joining me. Until next time, again, remember, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Yeah, leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. What do you think about Netanyahu coming to the U.S., speaking to Congress and whatnot? Um, yeah, what the hell is he going to talk to Trump? We know what he's going to talk to Trump because he wants Trump as president. He wants Trump as president so that he can do whatever the hell he wants. He can continue this stuff and just completely obliterate Gaza, push them all out. I mean, that's what he really wants. Um, what do we think about? Uh, what do you think about the Beijing declaration with the Palestinian factions? Uh, you think it's going to do anything? Help in any kind of way? Um, Immediately, no, I don't think so. But could it be something to argue in the future? maybe very well, as far especially if we can actually get to the discussion of a Palestinian state. Um, and what do you think about Gaza, the West Bank? I mean, they're still trying to annex the West Bank as well. They're keep pushing and pushing to annex the West Bank, which would be all of West Bank. Um, Let me know what you think. This has been JMD for Clear Talk. See you next time. Peace.